Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. First things first, I do a giveaway every single week, so if you're interested, I'll tell you how to enter later on in this video. That said, we have some malicious compliance stories, and our first story of the day is by Nenepp. You won't stop cold calling a printing company to sell us printing unless I agree to set up a meeting with one of your reps? Okay then. In the mid-2000s, I worked for a small printing company. Our commercial work was on large lithographic machines, but we still had office printers and a number of staff who knew a lot about them. I don't think a single one of our office printers had been purchased new or even working. The owner just bought lots of broken office printers for not a lot of money and then Frankensteined them into working ones. We didn't often buy printer paper because we'd just cut leftovers from the factory to suitable sizes for the office. Overall, our office printing costs were extremely low despite the fact that we printed tens of thousands of pages a year. I was a general office dog's body. Among my duties was fielding calls for the director. He would never take calls from cold callers, and I was allowed to describe myself as whatever job title they wanted to hear to deal with them. An office printing management service had got our number. They were offering a completely managed service where they loaned the machines, supplied the consumables, took care of everything, and you just paid per print. Great for some companies, expensive and unnecessary for us. When they first started ringing, I kept telling them, "Sorry, we aren't interested, please remove us from your list." Or, "We're a printing company, we don't need managed printing services. Please take us off your list." This must have gone on for months, and I was getting annoyed that they wouldn't take us off the call list and started spending more time trying to explain to them why it was pointless and a waste of both our time to keep ringing. I explained the information above, but the caller was convinced he could save us money regardless of all that. I guaranteed him he couldn't, as I doubted we paid more than a penny a page. Naturally, he didn't believe me. As far as he was concerned, if I was answering the phone, I was the office junior. No one important answers the phone. Who had no idea how much printing actually cost and was just too stubborn and or stupid to put him through to someone that mattered, and if he persisted, eventually he'd get through to the right person who would reward him with a juicy contract. This same conversation was had at least once a week for the next month or two. He's desperate to let me set up a meeting. Besides, he says he can take us off the list once he set up a meeting with a decision maker. Right, fine. Sure, you can book a meeting for your reps, but I guarantee it will be a complete waste of their time. I scheduled them a meeting with the office manager, me, on a Friday afternoon when I'm the only one in the office, so I won't be too busy and it'll be a diversion. The reps arrive, I show them into the office. They are clearly thinking we spend a lot on printing because we have so many darn printers, and I give a rough idea of how much we get through in the office. They give me their enthusiastic spiel about all the advantages, focusing on the costs. They want to sit down with the figures and see what they can save us. Do I know what we spend at the moment? Paraphrased conversation. I say, not completely sure, think it's around 100 to 200 pounds a year. "No, it'll be a lot more than that with the amount of printing you do. Is that just the paper?" "No, that's just ink and toner." Rep looks skeptical. "Well, there's the paper too." To be honest, we mostly cut down leftover paper from the factory, or sometimes suppliers give us a few cases for free. Okay, right, so what about the initial costs of the machines? If you average it out over the lifetime of prints rather than considering it just as capital expenditure, it can make up a significant portion of your printing costs. This photocopier, for example, it's a few years old now and you're looking at about 12,000 pounds to replace it with a similar spec machine. So with our service, you can avoid that capital expense. The owner buys them broken and repairs them. Most of the printers only cost a few quid, except the photocopier, which I think cost us 700 pounds. As even broken, they are expensive, and it took 3 broken ones to make that working one. Right, so when you need to replace it, I hazard to guess he'll do exactly the same again. And the ongoing maintenance costs? Me, blank stare. Then there's the costs and lost productivity of downtime to consider. He is trailing at this point. It's clearly part of his rehearsed spiel, but he can also see downtime isn't an issue when we bizarrely have more printers than computers. There's absolutely no point us being here, is there? No, I'm afraid not. That was repeatedly explained to the guy who set up the meeting, but he said your company won't stop cold calling until we agreed to a meeting, so here you are. The reps agree it is a complete waste of time, have a bit of a frustrated laugh about the call center, and say it's not the first time they've been sent to completely pointless meetings because the call center folks get their commission based on the quantity, not quality, of the meetings they set up. They don't bother giving me their quote. I never heard from the company again. Well, I think this is more a fault of the call center and the way they operate than anything else. When their commission is predicated on having a quantity of meetings, they're just gonna try and send you to any old place. If you worked at this printing place and they were unrelentless, would you give in and let them schedule the meeting, or would you continue to try and find a way to just block them? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Fire and Bone. Okay, I'll do what you say because you are the manager, but... In my early 20s, I worked at a Burger King in a college town. This place did well, but it was in an old crappy building that couldn't be altered due to local government issues. As a result, we had a lot of managers who would be there for a bit and then promoted to better places. I was good at my job, to the point where I was unofficially in charge of shifts and training new people. Note that I was still the bottom of the ladder officially, which will be important later. Being a college town, people are poor and didn't buy expensive things. On top of that, you had commuters who would snag a quick bite on their way home. So a smart person knows that the corporate guidelines for what to have on hand are useless and only get you in trouble. We get a new manager, Mike. Mike is a bit of a control freak and is overcompensating for his height. He was short. It's his first evening shift and I am trying to explain the corporate guidelines are a bad idea. He doesn't like this, and being a young man, I am getting a little bit angry. Finally, he pulls the manager card and tells me to follow the guidelines. I pause, look him in the eye, and say, "Okay, I'll do what you say because you're the manager, but you're not going to have the food you need, wait time is going to go nuts, and it's going to be miserable. After we do that for a bit, I'm going to do it my way and pull you out of the fire." Dead silence in the kitchen. A few of the more experienced people ask me if that is really what we are going to do. I confirm, and more than a few people are nervous but also amused. Cut to a couple of hours later. Our parking lot is filled with people waiting, as is our lobby. On top of that, our drive-through time is at almost 10 minutes. I think our district manager might have even called in because he watched his places like a hawk. True to my word, I told people we were done and to do it the right way. We get everything under control and end the night fairly well. Mike and I discussed what happened, which boiled down to he should trust our judgment, and he was with us for 6 months. Still pulled rank, but at least he respected the people who did the job. I definitely think a quality leader is somebody that can listen to the people underneath them. Sometimes it's great that the leader can take affirmative action and take a direction that they think is absolutely right, but I think it's invaluable to be able to listen to the people that work underneath you and really weigh their concerns. It just makes the group stronger as a whole. This next story is by CzunkyMonkey. Sorting the garbage was not in my job description. A few years ago, I took a job as a night cleaner for a business after hours. It deals with sensitive information, so I will be vague on the actual business. Sorry. When I took the job, I was instructed how to handle the garbage from around the building. Paper only was to be put in the trash cans at the desks. I was instructed to save the papers from those trash cans for 1 week before throwing them out. Food items were to be placed in specific garbage cans around the building, and those were thrown out nightly. About a year into the job, the rules started to go out the window for the workers. More and more often, I started finding half-drink cups of coffee mixed into the papers I was to save. I salvaged the pages I could and threw out the rest. What else could I do? I commented to my boss a few times about this, but it just turned into a few days of the no drinks, then back to drinks in the wrong trash cans. Then it got worse. Entire leftovers from a person's lunch ended up in their desk trash cans, to the point there was no salvaging most or any of the papers inside them. After a month of this, I said to myself, fine, they want me to save the trash in those cans, I will save the trash in those cans. And that's exactly what I did. Half a container of Chinese food with the paper into the save bag. Most of a now melted milkshake and a receipt into the save bag. Trash from the actual lunchroom? I thought I saw paper in there, so for good measure, let's save that too. The first week wasn't too horrible. The smell hadn't left the storage room just yet. Then we got a heat wave. By end of week 2, it was ripe. Start of week 3, there was no escaping the smell. Wednesday of week 3, I got told by one of the managers, go ahead and throw out all the trash from the garbage cans. We are not throwing out any papers in them anymore. You got it. Thursday, I showed up with 2 full cans of air freshener and emptied them both. My job is much easier and quicker now that I don't have to worry about saving the trash. Smells a lot better too. You know, if it's a job that's centered around sensitive information and for that reason they probably wanted you to save the paperwork, but then they were like, you know what, screw it, let's just throw all the trash out and throw everything together. Really kind of hurts your confidence in whatever the job was, right? Our next story is by jephistopheles. No testing? No problem. This was a few years ago. Back then, I was a senior lead on a software development team. I was working on a contract for a horrible client, commercial mortgage-backed securities. Even though I regularly stayed until 10 p.m. to keep up with stuff, they made a big stink about being 10 or 15 minutes late in the morning. So fine, I started coming in exactly at 9 a.m. and leaving exactly at 6 p.m. I would literally hang up in the middle of a call at 5:59 p.m. Anyway, the contract was ending, and I knew they didn't have support to keep running the application after we were gone, but I was tired of their BS. The last major scope of work we had, they were pressuring us to finish by some arbitrary deadline. I wouldn't budget on my estimate, so they talked to my boss into just skipping testing. Their logic was that we always produced good quality code, so we could probably skip the testing. Just do it right the first time, they said. Against all my arguments, my boss forced me to release the code without any formal testing. We did unit testing to see if there were any errors, but did not do any testing to see if any of the results were actually correct. We released the code and everything is fine for a few weeks. When they run end of the month reports, they notice all the numbers were way off. They call us in and we take a look at it. Yep, simple problem. There was a missing where clause on a single SQL statement. What that meant was that when the system was running complicated financial calculations, it was running the calculation on all loans, not just the loan the user was looking at. So it looked correct as they were working, but every time someone saved, it scrambled all the numbers for every other record that had already been saved. An entire month of an entire department's work was lost. All I could say was, this is why we do testing. You ain't got nobody to blame but yourself in that situation. They gave you a budget, it's a firm budget, and you're like, you know what, let's scrap the most important part of it because we're sure everything will go fine. Well, I think whoever made that call, they're on the line for this failure. So quickly now, I want to explain just how to enter the giveaway. All you need to do is leave a comment on this video relevant to something you saw or heard or liked in any story in that video. That's it, you're entered. But it applies to every single video we upload this week. So to get the best odds at winning the $30 Amazon gift card giveaway, you'll want to leave a comment relating to any of those videos all week long. On Sunday, after the last video has gone out, I'll pick one comment at random and let you know on the following Monday who has won, and then it starts all over again. So make sure you leave a relevant comment on this video and additionally every video I upload this week for the absolute best chance to win. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and give the videos a like too, because it helps more than you could imagine. That said, our final story is by Emefjay, Electrical Engineering 101. I was reminiscing with some old university and lifelong friends the other day about our first year together 50 years ago now. Amongst other things, we remembered the malicious compliance that the whole class managed to exploit as the year went by. We were studying physics. In our first year, we were obliged to take an add-on class in another subject, presumably because it would be good for us. It only carried a minimal credit towards our degree, so nobody took it particularly seriously. But we still had to do it, and attendance or otherwise was noted. The majority of us picked electrical engineering because rumors from past students were that at least the lab work was fun, and you got to play with things that went bang very loudly. Most of them weren't supposed to, of course, but it's amazing how much pleasure can be had from miswiring a 440-volt three-phase supply or mixing up the prefixes milli and mega. Each week this course included a 4-hour afternoon lab session involving a load of different experiments. As the year went by, everybody rotated through the full set of experiments, one per week. As a minor incentive to at least try, one rule was that as soon as you had completed your experiment and got the model answer, you were free to leave and take the rest of the afternoon off. We were left largely unsupervised unless the flames got too high, so as long as we turned in a paper with the right answer, nobody much cared how we got there. One of the experiments was a literal black box experiment. You were given a brick-sized wooden box painted black with 3 electrical connections on the top. The instructions were, using any equipment in the lab, determine the contents of the box and draw its circuit diagram. Well, we had access to every shape of meter and every flavor of power source and detectors for all sorts of rays and fields. And a screwdriver. The malicious compliance? Everybody, when their turn came round, used the screwdriver to open the box, then drew the contents and screwed the lid back on. The fallout? For that experiment, everybody got full marks and 3 hours, 55 minutes free time. This one's a simple work smarter not harder type deal. They didn't say you couldn't use the screwdriver, they said you could use any tool you want. Sorry, instructor, but people are just gonna unscrew it and look at it if they can. I mean, that 4 hours of free time is a big deal. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So, which of these stories was your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing and turn notifications on if you haven't so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Any little thing that you do helps the channel grow so much more. Whether it's commenting, subscribing, or just watching the video, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time, right here on the Storytime channel.